Meghan Markle suffers defeat in lawsuit involving her father, or at least she believes the Mail was far more to believe in this situation. New court documents reveal that attorneys for the Duchess of Sussex argue that Mail reporters coaxed and manipulated Thomas into selling them the letter. Unfortunately for Meghan, the judge in a case is not just buying it. The argument from Thomas Markle was manipulated by the newspaper has been thrown out of the court. I don't consider the allegations in question go to the heart of the case, the judge said in a ruling made public on Monday. I've struck out all the passages attacked in the application notice, the judge continued. I've also acted so as to confine the case to what is reasonably necessary and proportionate for the purpose of doing justice between these parties. The judge also deleted the allegation the paper harassed and humiliated her father and manipulated this vulnerable man into giving interviews. So what does this mean in layman's terms? Well, if Meghan Markle wants to proceed with a case, which she almost certainly will, she and her lawyers will have to do with the understanding that they won't be able to argue that Thomas was any less culpable in all of this than the Mail. That doesn't mean that the 75-year-old will experience any legal consequences, but emotional ramifications for Meghan are obvious. The extent to which Meghan and her father's relationship is deeply strained became clear to the entire world when Thomas skipped the royal wedding, citing health problems that later turned out to be bogus. She addressed his absence at the ceremony in a letter, and it's quite clear she never thought he would stoop so low as to sell the correspondence to a tabloid. Meghan has reportedly not spoken to her father in 10 months. She and Harry stepped down from royal life in large part due to the fact that she was continually harassed by UK media outlets such as the Mail. Many believe this lawsuit is Meghan's way of having the last word before she cut ties with the British press for good. We'll continue to keep you updated on the case as more information becomes available. Meghan Markle gave a stirring speech to a bunch of high school seniors this week, speaking to the graduating students about life in America these days. Amid protests, civil unrest, and debates over systematic racism, the former actress urged everyone to speak up. The only thing to say is to say nothing, Markle said. And here is the irony. If Markle and Prince Harry had not walked away this year from the royal family, that's exactly what would have happened. Markle would not have been permitted to speak on this pressing topic. It would have been pretty impossible, Dickie Arbiter, Queen Elizabeth II's former press secretary, told Newsweek of whether or not Markle would have addressed the George Floyd killing fallout from inside the walls of Kensington Palace. What's happened in the States is an absolute tragedy and it should never have happened. But unfortunately, it did happen. He continued, had Meghan and Harry still been in the UK and working members of the royal family, that speech could not have happened. That says a lot, doesn't it? Historians often explain that Queen Elizabeth II and company are meant to be seen as symbols. They're meant to stand for something proper and dignified with the British society, and yet they are not meant to be heard almost at all. In the history of her reign, Queen Elizabeth II has addressed her nation a total of 5 times in 68 years. One of these times took place this spring as she sought to comfort Great Britain residents in the face of the COVID-19 outbreak. Markle, for her part, didn't seem to say anything too controversial when speaking to these students. She looked back on her time as a student at this private all-girls school, as well as the 1992 riots in the Los Angeles area, noted these memories don't go away. You're going to lead with love. You're going to lead with compassion. You're going to use your voice. Markle also told her audience, and yet it is highly politicized because of the very nature of what it is. Arbiter told Newsweek of how such a message would have been received by the royals, adding, it's starting to voice opinions about the internal affairs of another country. I don't think the Queen has to say anything. It's a social issue for the United States, and it's not for a head of a state to voice an opinion, whether the Queen or the President of France or whoever. In London on Wednesday, though, thousands of demonstrators met near Buckingham Palace in order to chant "Justice Now" and in order to hold placards reading "We can't breathe." These were the last words of George Floyd. Markle, who has been a victim of hate speech ever since she started dating Harry, and especially since she married him, closed her speech as follows.